oral tradition in our house. I knew the word griot when I was a little boy. A griot was a person in Africa who was charged with keeping the stories of the village. Everyone would tell a griot the stories and they would remember them all so that they could tell future generations. And when they got old, they'd tell them to someone else. And they say in Africa, when a griot dies, it's like a library was burnt, man.
The griots were these brilliant African storytellers who learned for generations, the father, the son, mother, daughter, so forth, the stories of their people, their kings, their lands, etc., and so forth. In order to instruct others, they would have these huge sessions where they would sit around and pass these stories down and instruct people and so forth.
And the griot is the man who sits down there, who knows the history, who knows every single story that is important, relevant for that kingdom.
What's going on, y'all? You already know what it is. It's your boy Griot. On today's episode 5, part 1, make sure that you check out part 2 as well. I would like to sit down and have a more intimate conversation with you guys. 2020 has been a rough year, and one of the things that we seem to be experiencing more or seeing more as far as on social media is death. So I'm not going to give you a definition of what death is. As an adult, even as a kid, there's a lot of us that has experienced it at an early age in our mid 20s, our 30s, 40s, and so on. It's something that we can't escape. Death is literally the end of life. Not to be confused with the end of your spiritual life, but just the end of your physical life. We're promised two things in this world, and one is your birth, and your second is your death. In between, that's you. That is your choices. That is your experiences. That is you as a person growing and becoming who you are before you reach the final destination as we know it as human beings. Now, the funny thing about death that we have been able to study throughout the world in different cultures is that just because you die physically does not mean that you die and you're just gone. I don't know what your spiritual or your religious preference may be, but I do know mine, and I know my beliefs. So on my show, all I can do is talk about mine. And from what life has taught me is that when you leave the physical plane, there is a life after this. So I choose to try and live the best I can so that whatever life is after this, I'll be able to enjoy that as well. So first off, I would like to say rest in peace to Ruth Ginsburg, Chadwick Boseman, and John Lewis. Yesterday, everyone saw in media that Ruth had passed away. She was a Supreme Court Justice seat member, or she sat in that seat, and she was fighting as long as she could to stay around because she believed in what she was fighting for. She was an amazing woman. She was a feminist. She fought for gender equality. John Lewis was an amazing man, civil rights activist. Chadwick Boseman, also another amazing man who depicted a lot of the black community's figures or icons in movies and told their story in the best way that he could, and he captured it perfectly on film. Now, John Lewis, he was older. You know, when you get to a certain age or you hit a certain age, you start to think about death more. I'm 32. With all the death that I've experienced in life, it is on my mind sometimes. But I think the older you get, the more you stop really feeling like you're invincible, and you start to realize that your life does have an expiration. All the things that you wanted to achieve in life, if you have achieved them, that's good. But you always have something that motivates you or pushes you further to do more. Whether it's kids, whether it's work, whether it's just in general, just trying to help your society out. For most of us, I can't speak for everybody. Now, John did a lot for America. Ruth did a lot for America. Chadwick did a lot for his fans that he could touch and he could inspire to do more. And they aren't the only deaths that we have had to experience this year. 2020 has been a very, very eye-opening year when it comes to just life. And what we take for granted is the people around us. Everyone that you know is connected one way or another. If you know a guy down the block named Bill and he's 45 years old, but Bill's lived in your community for the last 30 years, you got to remember Bill has a family. And also Bill knows the rest of your community. So when Bill dies, that death reaches out to all those people. They can't say how they felt about Bill anymore. Not to him. They can't tell Bill, thank you for everything that Bill's done for them. They can't walk down the street and just, wave hi or good morning. There's no more of that. Yeah, you could go to to his grave and talk to him and speak to him and tell him how you feel. Then, but for a human experience, and you know what I'm saying, like unless you got that spiritual backing for the human experience, everything that you wish you could have said to that person before they passed away, you lost that opportunity. And I find it very upsetting sometimes that, especially nowadays, people don't seem to appreciate life the way that they should. I've heard people talk about some of the deaths that happen, and they say, oh, well, oh, well, that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's father, that's somebody's uncle, that's somebody's aunt, that's somebody's child. When will us as people, as human beings, learn that life is precious and it should be adorned, and that it's not being sensitive to appreciate another human being's life? I want to say it was about a month ago. I got a call from one of my friends that I met when I first joined the military, and he told me, he's like, "Hey man, I want you to hear it from me. It hasn't really been circulating yet, but Shep died." So when he said it, it kind of hit me. It didn't hit me immediately, but it just hearing it was shocking in itself. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, "What you mean Shep died?" He's like, "He passed away." And I know that he was back home, already out the military, and he had already been home for a while. So to just think about being in the military, and you go and you do the things that you do, and then you go home, and thinking that somebody that you knew went home to be happy and live a better life, they got murdered at home. It That hurts. That does. So not even an hour later, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about the experiences that me and Shep went through. And if you know that relationship, we weren't tight, but we were cool. And all I wished for him was that he had a better life. An hour goes by. And I look on Facebook and I see that one of my mentors from Quantico, he had passed away. Mr. Anderson. Rest in peace to Desi Shepherd and Robert Anderson. So within a time span of 2 hours, I just found out that two people that had an impact on me in some way, shape, or form had passed away. And I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking to myself, man, I hadn't talked to Mr. Anderson in a couple years. Last time I talked to him, I had actually went to visit him. I went to visit all my people in Quantico and I stopped by to say what's up to him. Desi, I hadn't talked to him in a couple years, but now I'm hearing that they passed away and I'm thinking about all this stuff and I'm like, wow, I can't even tell them, you know what I'm saying, thank you for what you've done for me, or hey man, I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, the little conversations we had. Thank you. I appreciate the little conversations we had, you know what I'm saying? Because you made me better in some way, shape, or form. Even with the negative experiences me and Shep had in the beginning, you know, that it toughened me up a little bit. So then I'm thinking about that. And now here we are in the month of September, you know, October, November. My mom passed away in November. And for the last 5 years, I have hated the holidays. Reason being, you know, my mom was my rock. She was my world. She was the only person that I could turn to and talk to, and I didn't have to worry about anything. If I was wrong, she'd tell me, son, you're wrong. You need to fix yourself, but I love you. Unconditional love. She was that guiding light that you need in life. And when she passed away, I felt like I don't know what to do. Like, why am I here? What's my purpose? So I say all of this to say that whether you hate somebody, whether you love somebody, whether you just don't care about them, appreciate them as a human being and the fact that they have life. Know that their life in some way, shape, or form means something to somebody. We take it for granted too often, man. And we sit here and we watch people pass by. Like, time passes us by. Like, we have an expiration date. So the time that you have, love those that's near and dear to you and close to you. And when you have the opportunity, even if it's just to say, hey, I love you, or I hope you're doing okay. Are you doing okay? Check in. Do that. Because you could wake up the next morning, you could leave the position wherever you are right now. You could take 3 steps and get a phone call and say, hey, so-and-so just passed away. The relationships you have, hold them dear. Hold them close to your heart, please. That concludes episode 1. And give us a second to take a break, and then we'll get into episode 2.